4.24 light years away from us.
So
To put that
basically,
into perspective, if it was heading in the right direction, it would still take Voyager 1 over 70,000 years to reach it. In other words, if you drove your car at 100 kilometers an hour like in our previous example to the moon, it would take over 6 times longer than the entire age of the universe is just to finally get there, and it wouldn't even exist still when you arrived. When we zoom out even further, we can see the entire Milky Way galaxy, inside of which Earth is located right here. This yellow dot is the furthest extent of humanity's radio broadcast.
Let me play this for you guys. And I've played it, so I'm gonna look at the games and see what I can do.
Its complete silence outside of this yellow dot, as far as we are currently aware, the entire galaxy spans over 100,000 light years from end to end. There are over 100 billion stars and over 100 billion planets inside of our galaxy. But you have never seen the full glory of the galaxy at night, because 99% of the stars that you can see with the naked eye are limited to this small, tiny region right here. But even this massive galaxy is nothing compared to the rest of what's out there. Zooming out even further, and we arrive at the local group of galaxies, a collection of 54 different galaxies that is about 10 million light years across. But zooming out even further, and we can see the Virgo supercluster, of which the local group here is just a tiny segment of. There are at least 100 other groups of galaxies just like our own local group inside of here, and the distance from one side to the other is a mind-numbing 110 million light years. But even the massive Virgo supercluster is nothing but a quiet and tiny lobe of the Great Laniakea supercluster, an enormous structure that is home to our galaxy as well as 100,000 other galaxies. The distance from one side to the other is 520 million light years, but from even there we can zoom out all the way to the entire observable universe and see that even the titanic Laniakea supercluster is just a tiny and insignificant part of everything. This at least 2 trillion different and individual galaxies, which together contain more stars than there are grains of sand on the entire Earth. The distance from Earth to any side of the observable universe is 46.5 billion light years, which means that the entire width is 93 billion light years across. What's perhaps even more interesting, however, is what actually lies beyond the observable universe. Keep in mind that the observable universe is all that we can currently see, and it's entirely possible that the rest of the universe outside of it is vastly larger and more fantastic than we can possibly ever imagine. We simply don't know what else is out there, because the light from these incredibly distant places has not yet had enough time in the universe's history to reach us yet back on Earth. And the light from some places may never reach us at all. Because some parts of space very far away from Earth are expanding away from us faster than the speed of light, that means that the light from these places will never, in an infinite amount of time, reach Earth. Meaning that even if humanity is eternal and exists forever, there will still be an unknown number of places in the universe that we will never know about or ever see. So, it is very likely that as unbelievably enormous as it seems, the observable universe is just a tiny slice of what we can currently see of the entire universe. According to the theory of cosmic inflation that was proposed by Dr. Alan Guth, if it is assumed that cosmic inflation began at 10 to the negative 37th of a second after the Big Bang, and with the assumption that the size of the universe before inflation began was equal to its age times the speed of light, then this would seem to suggest that at the present day, the entire universe is 150 sextillion times larger than the observable universe. That number for reference looks like this, with this many zeros. Let this number sink in for just a moment. This would be similar to you thinking that the entire observable universe, everything that you could see, is the size of a light bulb, but then realizing that in reality the entire universe is larger than the former planet of Pluto. Imagine a light bulb in the center of Pluto, but we inside the light bulb were totally unaware that Pluto existed outside of it, and that's a similar situation to this. We are all so unbelievably small, but you shouldn't worry, because all that means is that there is so much left out there for us to discover together.
Some of these games I have played, I'm gonna show you guys.
This video was made possible by Squarespace. If you're wanting to create a new website for your next project, Squarespace is the absolute easiest way of doing it.
Very cool.
I've used them before for several different projects, and what I think is best about them is that you don't need any programming skills in order to make a beautiful website. It's incredibly easy and can be done in just a few minutes, and there's always somebody to call 24/7 if you ever need any help. You can create a blog, a store, a page, or art, or really just about anything. And what's best of all is that you can get
6 players.
What? Real life lore at squarespace.com/real-life-lore. That also means that you'll be directly supporting my channel, so please go ahead and check them out at squarespace.com/real-life-lore. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, I sincerely hope that you'll share it with a friend or two and give this video either a like or a dislike. You can subscribe to my channel for content just like this in the future by clicking here. You can visit my Patreon by clicking here if you're interested in supporting the channel, watch some older videos of mine by clicking here over on the left, and I hope to see you again next Friday for another new video.
There's like 4 people in the lobby. This was supposed to be an easy game.
If we find aliens, what do we do? When discussing first contact, many are quick to point out that historically, contact between culturally different civilizations has almost always led to the destruction of one of those civilizations. Because of this, you could argue that we should stick to ourselves, leave the aliens alone. But in almost every one of those historical examples, it's the civilization that makes contact that destroys the civilization that receives contact. So perhaps we should go on the offensive. Find the aliens before they find us.
What?
Of course, we've been trying for decades to find extraterrestrial life. It's one of humanity's great questions. Are we alone? One way we might find aliens is by looking at stars, or more specifically, the light level of stars. As the Earth has developed, our energy consumption has skyrocketed. That's just a consequence of an increasingly technologically advanced world. It's suspected that this trend will continue, and it's also suspected that with any alien civilization, they'll also require more and more energy as they advance. Eventually, any planetary civilization will reach a point where the amount of energy on their planet is not enough to sustain their advancing civilization. Theoretical physicist Freeman Dyson speculated that when a planetary civilization needs more energy than their planet can provide, they'll turn to the sun. Stars are the most abundant source of energy in any planetary system, so a super advanced civilization could build a series of satellites to orbit around their sun to collect energy. When sunlight travels through space, it loses energy, and so the amount of energy captured by a solar panel near the sun would be astronomically higher than a solar panel on Earth. With more energy, a civilization could produce more satellites, and eventually there would be a swarm of satellites orbiting the sun. Freeman Dyson believes that this is the most logical way that any civilization would harvest the energy they need. So if we search for a star with orbiting satellites, we might be able to find an alien civilization. No telescope is powerful enough to see the individual satellites, but we can rather easily observe the light level of stars. You see, once a faraway civilization builds enough satellites, the swarm will start to block our view of their sun as the satellites orbit. From our perspective, it will look like the star is twinkling, something completely unnatural. So, by looking for stars with highly variable light levels, we might be able to find an alien civilization harvesting the energy of their sun. KIC 8462852, also known as Tabby Star, is a star in the Cygnus constellation of the Milky Way. Scientists observed the light level of this star for years, and they regularly came across irregularities like this. Maybe there are comets or a debris field obstructing our view of the star, but astronomers have doubted that either of those could dip the light levels by this much. This has led some to suggest that an alien civilization has built these orbiting satellites around their sun, but we may never know for certain. Of course, all of this is somewhat speculative, and it's unlikely that we'd actually find a so-called Dyson sphere around a sun. It's more of a thought experiment, demonstrating that we could find aliens through looking for their impact on the universe. Conversely, aliens might find us based on our effect on the universe. That's why we very purposefully sent out messages to our hypothetical cosmic neighbors. The Pioneer plaques were designed and placed on the 2 Pioneer spacecrafts, which were the first to explore the far reaches of the solar system. Since these 2 are some of the farthest man-made objects from Earth, they were sent with a message in case extraterrestrials come across the probes. This is what was sent: the Pioneer plaque. It has a representation of hydrogen, the most abundant element in the universe, a picture of a man and woman including a raised hand, a gesture that most likely wouldn't be understood but shows how our limbs move, and the existence of the opposable thumb, an image of the Pioneer spacecraft behind the humans so that the extraterrestrials could figure out the rough size of humans, the location of the sun relative to 14 nearby pulsar stars using hydrogen spin-flip transition frequency as the unit, something far too complicated for me to explain, and lastly, an image of the solar system with the rough trajectory of the Pioneer spacecraft. But there are issues with this image. We have no idea how aliens gather information. Humans are a visual species since we have relatively good vision, so it's natural for us to convey information through images. Aliens, on the other hand, could have poor or no vision, and therefore no conception of the idea of transferring information through images, or they could interpret the symbols vastly differently. Perhaps the most frequently criticized aspect of the plaque is the arrow. It's believed that the arrow symbol is derived from either the shape of arrows or the human hand pointing, or perhaps a combination of both. Aliens would most likely have neither arrows or hands, and therefore no idea what this symbol means. They could also make the dangerous assumption that the symbol depicts a weapon launching, meaning that the spacecraft was sent to harm them. Other sets of images have been sent with subsequent space probes, but the chance of aliens finding these few tiny objects in the vastness of space is minuscule. What's far more likely is that aliens will discover humanity off of something we've been sending out for over 100 years. Radio signals. While most are too weak to reach faraway galaxies, some do travel through space and could be picked up by extraterrestrial civilizations, especially more advanced ones with better detection technology than us. It's entirely possible that we've already unintentionally sent the signal that will be our first message to an extraterrestrial civilization. It's also entirely possible that the first sign we will have of extraterrestrial life is a radio message from another planet. The problem is then deciphering it. The first step is deciding what the message even is. Is it binary? Is it radiation? Is it natural language? What is it? We can figure this out. In the English language, the most common word, the, accounts for about 7% of all word occurrences. The second most common word, be, accounts for about 3.5% of all words. Then and is about 2.3%, and so on and so forth. The distribution of words, it turns out, in all languages follows a logarithmic scale. The second most common word occurs about half as frequently as the most common, the third 1/3 as often, the fourth 1/4 as often, the fifth 1/5 as often, and so on and so forth. This is somehow true for all languages, even ones with no common ancestral language, which means that, more than likely, an alien language will follow the same distribution. It's not entirely understood why languages follow this distribution, but one possible explanation is that people are lazy. It's called the principle of least effort. People, animals, even machines will always pick the path of least resistance, the easiest path. And in the case of language, the meaning that needs to be most frequently conveyed will be attached to the most common word rather than a number of other words, since that is easiest. That keeps happening down to the least frequent word, therefore creating this distribution. With an extraterrestrial transmission, if we rank the sounds by frequency and it follows this distribution, we can believe that it's most likely a language. But then we need to try to understand the language. For this, we need to drop all assumptions. There are innate similarities across all human languages, mostly related to grammar. For example, pretty much every language separates description words, nouns, from action words, verbs. Grammatically, there are huge similarities between all languages, even ones that develop separately. Some have suggested that this means that humans have a genetic framework for language. Perhaps we are hardwired from birth to understand what nouns and verbs and sentences are, and learning a language is just the process of filling in and understanding that framework. From everything we understand about the communication systems that animals use, they do not have a universal grammar like humans. We therefore have to assume that an alien language would be fundamentally different than ours. We don't know how they'll structure sentences, We don't even know if they'll have sentences. The problem is, if we just receive a natural language transmission, there's really nothing we can do. When deciphering ancient languages, linguists figure out meaning using context and relations to other languages. But with an alien language transmission, there is no context and no other similar languages to compare it with. All this is assuming that aliens use a verbal language, and that's a huge assumption. Many, if not most animals, have no verbal communication system. Cuttlefish and chameleons alter their body color to communicate, while ants and honeybees use pheromones to talk to other members of their species. Even if we understood their language, could we understand what they're saying? Take this sentence in French. Translating it literally word for word gets you, the Palace Bourbon is the name commonly given to the building that houses the Assemblée Nationale French located on the Quai of Orsay in the 7th borough of Paris of the Square of the Concorde. Even if you clean it up to structure it like an English sentence, how much meaning is conveyed to you? What exactly is the French National Assembly? Where is the Quai of Orsay? Where is the 7th borough?
Summertime is here. It's time to relax and have fun. Couldn't get any better. Or could it?
The world would infer little meaning.
Oh yeah!
Philosopher,
New maps direct your friends and foes.
If a lion could speak, we would not be able to.
New weapons to destroy news.
All age and cultures and requires a high frame of reference.
Express yourself with new emotes and character skins.
Starbucks. There's no way you would understand what you're saying. You have to explain
Awesome!
what it is, then explain what a car is, what the internet is, what a phone is, an app, coffee,
Hi, I'm
Starbucks,
Flamingo. Also, go
monetary
get the
system,
woohoo
all
or
stuff
yay.
that is intuitive to modern humans. Translating the words of an extraterrestrial civilization is just the first step.
Wow, I wish I could be that guy.
Centuries and cars and artificial light are not part of the natural structure of Earth. We therefore need to show them to understand the universe. Math, no matter where you go, is 4, and the ratio of a circle's circumference to diameter is 3.141592. Of course, what you call 2 or 4 or pi would be different, but the concept is. Therefore, we could show the aliens an understanding of math. Put 2, then 4. 4. Keep this going until they get the point. Although, perhaps the best mathematical principle to demonstrate would be the Pythagorean theorem. It's complicated, but easy to show. The Pythagorean theorem demonstrates that in the case of the right triangle, the square of the side opposite to the right angle is equal to the square of the other two sides.
Wow, I wish I could be that guy.
The amount of squares on the two sides is on the longer side.
What?
We found the aliens. Now that we have met them, we can talk to them. Someone needs to.
Wow, you got a headshot.
Why?
First point of contact between humanity and the universe. What would you ask? I hope you enjoy this Wendover Productions video. These videos are hugely expensive to make, and I can buy stock footage, buy music, hire a sound designer, pay for programming.
Headshot, boy!
Little Tom sucks.
On the channel. None of it goes to me, and I'm held to videos, stickers, and letters, and most recently, t-shirts. You can also order a t-shirt by Wow, you got it. Here Check out my subreddit here, and most of all, subscribe to this channel to receive videos right when they This video was made possible by Squarespace. Build your website for 10% off at squarespace.com. The second richest country is Luxembourg, which looks like this. The third richest is Singapore, which looks like this. The commonality is each of them has more than 50% each have fermentation levels below 50%. That is not to say that cities automatically create wealth or wealth automatically creates cities, but there is a direct correlation between the two. Although this is strange that humans living crowded, crime spread. If the population person would have 5 where half the population is 1% of the land. 54% of the world population now lives. 55 years ago, only half that lived a city life. The urbanization of the world hunter-gatherer. They scavenged for food and often didn't similar to how animals live. But then, in 2000 BC, we learned to farm. The domestication of plants allowed humans to find themselves in a place and establish humans lacked technology and expertise. The first archaeological evidence of plowed fields, a process that greatly improves crop yields, doesn't appear